I won't say the name of the company, but it was a very big company. And I wanted the job really bad. And I was like number two in the class. So I had high ranking and I
Congratulations.
interviewed with some very prestigious firms. And I'll never forget when I walked up to the interview room, the attorney that was interviewing was standing outside of the interview room. And I walked up and I said, is this the interview for so and so company? Is this the right room? Because they had a row of rooms that all of them interviewing at the same time. And he said, yes. And he said, I'm waiting for Lori Brown. And I said, I am Lori Brown. And he was so shocked and visibly shocked that it just was kind of awkward. And so we sat down in the room, and the first thing he said was, I have some Black friends.
All right, how you doing today?
I'm blessed and grateful. Glad to be here in sunny California, enjoying their weather and constant activity.
All right, yes, sunny California. I'm still trying to get there soon. We'll just start you if you can introduce yourself.
All right, my name is Attorney Lori Brown, and I am a practicing attorney in Columbus, Ohio. I just took the California bar examination because I plan on practicing in California as well.
Yeah.
My practice primarily consists currently of entertainment law and personal injury law and some business contract law as well. I would like to extend that to include more types of entertainment law as well. And I also do a little bit of probate law as well. So those are my primary interests. As you know, California has a lot more entertainment law, and that is one of the reasons that I am licensing here, so I can grab a lot more of that business. And it has been fruitful already. I'm already meeting tons of people with many opportunities. I've only been in California about 3 months now. And the first 2 months I was here, I was kind of studying and I wasn't really networking, but I've only started networking for the last couple of weeks, and I've met many people and had many opportunities to get new business. So I'm excited.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
Thank-
exciting. Okay. Do you see yourself as driven?
I do. I really do see myself as driven. Sometimes, you get periods where you're not as driven, but overall, I am a pretty driven person. I think most people in this field have a pretty big drive of some sort, and because it takes quite a bit to get to this point, so you have to have quite a bit of drive. And so I consider myself driven, especially going through a lot of life's challenges as you go through life. Things will kind of hold you back or get in the way, and you have to be driven to get around them. Being a single parent, you definitely better be driven if you want those kids to turn out successful and to be an example of what pursuing your dreams is like. You have to live it, you have to do it and show them. And so one of the other reasons that I decided to take the California bar is to just show my family and my children that, you know what, you can always do more, you can always be better.
Awesome. So is being a single mom and being an attorney, is that your journey?
That is my journey. I had two children. My first husband passed away, and but I raised both of my sons on my own, and they went to law school with me. Especially the youngest one, he attended many classes with me, and so he knows quite a bit of law. But that is my journey, and it's an interesting one. It definitely makes you figure out how to get around obstacles and how to be more than you even know that you can be until the challenge is presented.
Yeah. So was your son a part of your fuel to keep going?
They were. Both of my sons were my fuel. One of the things I knew, because I didn't have any degrees when my husband and I separated, I didn't have, all I had was a high school education. And so I knew that I had to get through undergrad and do it fairly quickly before they got of age. So they were young when that happened, and so I decided that I would take as many classes I could and graduate as fast as possible. So my bachelor's program I finished early, and then accidentally ended up in law school. I was not intending to do that. I got a paralegal degree, and then I went back and got a bachelor's degree because the paralegal degree was a 2-year degree from Columbus State Community College. But no one would hire me with a 2-year degree. Everybody that hired for paralegals wanted a 4-year bachelor's degree. So I went back to Capital University and got a 4-year bachelor's degree. And a law student came to my graduation party, and she suggested that I should take the LSAT and see how I did, since I did well at Capital University. And so I took it, a practice exam, LSAT, and she scored it and said, "Oh my God, you have to take the real exam. You did very well, and you don't even know what this test is about." And so I took it, and next thing you know, they were saying orientation is in a couple weeks, and I'm like, no. I planned on being a musician because all of my life I've sang from the time I could speak. I've been a singer, and
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah, so my goal was to be a musician, and that's why entertainment law is a part of my
Mhm.
passion, because I am myself an entertainer. Just the night before last, was that last night or the night before? I'm getting days mixed up now because there's been so much going on. I had the opportunity to sing at the Laugh Factory, and it was exciting. So many celebrities in the building, and I got to meet everybody. And so music is one of those areas that is very connecting, and it lets everybody put their guard down and connect with each other. So I'm grateful for that opportunity and for that gift that God has given me to open up those doors just by singing a song. It just breaks down those barriers. I met Mike Tyson. I met Tip Harris, T.I.,
Mhm.
Michael Blackson. I met Leslie Jones. I mean, it's just, the list is just crazy. I even met one of the producers of the Oscar award-winning best movie this past season, Cody. I met one of those producers as well. So
Awesome.
it's just been a great time. And it's a good time to be motivated, I think, in this season.
Mhm.
The good time to be motivated. There are so many opportunities to grow and to do all the things that you would prefer to do. It may seem post-pandemic that things are less, but they're really increasing. They're really
That's
increasing.
awesome. Yeah, that's an awesome perspective to have. And congratulations on things moving for you. I'm excited. I love when people go for their passions and you see the world aligned to what they actually want to do. So
Yeah,
I congratulations about that. That's awesome.
thank you. Thank you so much.
What does success mean to you?
Wow. Success to me means that if you have a family, that they are near and dear, that is the most successful thing you can do, is have family, and how, whatever that consists of. For me, it's my mom and my sister, my brother, and my children, and my friends. A lot of my friends are my family as well. But if you have that relationship that's truly rooted and grounded in love, and a give and take, to me, you're successful. The professional aspirations that I have are secondary to my family goals, and just being connected. Success is having a spiritual relationship with God and knowing um, his his will for your life, your purpose, and trying to do your best to stay on that path and not be distracted by the things of the world, by other people's desires of you, or even your own personal professional desires. So to me, success is really about those two main topics, and that's God and family, because without those, you could gain the world and lose everything, including
Mhm.
yourself.
Yeah, that's what the word says. You're in the
Yeah.
world and lose your soul. Yeah.
Amen.
Awesome. What do you consider as your greatest success?
To date,
Yes, to date.
wow. That's an interesting question. I have a couple things that come to mind. I think my greatest success is probably making my mom proud of me when I graduated from law school. I graduated in the top of my class, and she worked at the law school during that time period.
Oh,
So
awesome.
I know that that was a very proud moment for her. And I know being a parent of it's a tough job to raise a child and have them aspire to do great things and have a great relationship with them meanwhile, because
Mhm.
you can inspire somebody and then tear up the relationship. It can just be so many variations on how those things come out, because I have friends that are in great positions but have no relationship with their parents or have a bad relationship with their parents. And so I think that's one of my greatest accomplishments is being in a good relationship with my mother and making her very proud of me, and all that I've accomplished past beyond what I don't know what she thought I would be, but probably not an attorney. And what's interesting is when I was a little girl, my father always said I should be an attorney,
Oh,
uh,
wow.
because I asked tons of questions. I mean, as a 3 year old or 4 year old, everything was followed with a question. They couldn't answer enough questions for me. And he would always say, "You should be a lawyer." And I always thought I will never be a lawyer because they're boring and I don't want to go to school years. So, although that wasn't her plan, my mother never pushed me to be an attorney. They all knew I wanted to sing. So I feel comfortable in saying that is one of my greatest accomplishments to date. But there's a close tie on also building my relationship with God and being in my purpose with Him. That's the other biggest accomplishment. But it's hard for me to call it my accomplishment because it was His accomplishment. He called me. I didn't really run to Him until I needed Him. Until I was literally on my deathbed, and then I found Him. And so it's His greatest accomplishment. But I thank God for me at least hearing Him at that point, because I missed a lot of other opportunities to rise to that level.
Well, you ended up answering the call. I think that's what matters.
Yes, yes.
What are some of those challenges that you've had as a Black attorney and a Black woman attorney?
Okay, well, wow, what immediately comes to mind is when I worked at a big law firm, and and it was as much of being a woman as it was being a Black attorney, maybe even more
Mm,
the woman side, where you can feel a disconnect. In the big law firms, the top firms, it's male dominated, male partners, and they kind of pair you up with a mentor. And a lot of times the other males bonded with those mentors in ways that I could not, because they went to parties together, and they also sometimes strip clubs even. They played basketball and played on teams together. And I'm not a basketball player. And if they wanted me to play, I would have been so horrible they would have thrown me off the team. Never would have wanted that. But I noticed that my male counterparts um, were able to do those things outside of the office. So there were
mhm,
activities that I did with my mentor in the office, but then the conversation goes to sports or goes to club life or strip
mhm.
clubs, and that wasn't something I could take part in. And so you will feel that disconnect, that inability to connect on that level. And then you later hear them connecting on other business levels as a result of those personal connections. And that's what I meant by when I spoke earlier about me being able to sing and that breaking those barriers. There, you have to find a way for people to feel like they want to know you and that they could trust you and that there's a camaraderie, because legal business is very personal, and there's really no way to judge who you are going to choose to work with you other than who you know, like, and trust. And you know, like, and trust who you spend time with, who you play with, who you have fun
Mhm.
with a lot of
Yeah.
time. And so as a woman, you have to find a way to get around those barriers. And when I was early on, I didn't know how to associate with a white male that was 20 years older than me. We had nothing personal in common, from types of music we like to like sports. And had I had a female mentor, it may have been different, but that was my experience. One of the other things that I know in practice that I think that Black attorneys deal with specifically, I think females as well, even more, sometimes when you walk into the courtroom, it's assumed that you're the defendant, especially
Mm.
if your client is white. They will
Okay.
assume that you are not the attorney and that your client is the attorney, especially if you represent a white male and he's dressed in a suit. You both are in a suit, and they assume that he is the lawyer and you're the client. And so those are, and you have to figure out how to get that situation rectified without, um, making a bad impression.
So
And
how
it's
do you navigate those situations? Both of them. So the situation with your so like your mentors that are male typically, and I'm assuming white, and how they have that connection outside of the office that you don't necessarily have the opportunity to do. And then also, when you're navigating the courtroom and they assume because you are, the woman or the Black woman, that you're the client versus you being the attorney when your client is a white male or even white. How do you navigate those spaces?
Well, when it came to the corporate setting, and I was a summer associate working with older white males, if they give me enough time, I can listen to enough of the conversation and find some common ground that I could try and bridge a relationship through. Some of them had military backgrounds, and my father was a naval chaplain and
Okay.
officer in the Navy. If they had that background, I would pull that in and bring up some of the Navy experiences, the military experiences, and try to build a bridge through that. But a lot of times you don't get that much time with a senior partner to really figure out what he's interested in personally. And even if you do, it may be something that you have no idea about, yachts and different things that a lot of their conversations that I would be a part of. And you're just like, I don't know anything about yachts. I don't know anything about that. I can't really add anything to it. Maybe ask questions and just be interested in learning. So
Yeah.
that's really your only comeback that I know of in that respect, other than just trying to bring in something and see if they are interested in something that you know something about that they possibly could like. So I was never really able to figure that out early on. Now, later on, as I became an attorney and I figured it out, I've learned some ways to bridge and bond with people in that respect, because you can ask more questions. You're a little more safer because I have my own practice. So if I'm working with another co-counseling with another attorney, I can dig and figure out what our common ground could be and build
Hmm.
a relationship from there. And usually there is some musical background that they enjoy or like that I can bridge with. In regards to the court setting, that is very delicate. And I would tell anybody practicing law that everybody in the court system is important, from the person the clerks that you first meet to the bailiff, the judge's secretary. Everybody should be dealt with as if they are the judge. You should speak to them and respect them, even if they're wrong and they make accusations or assumptions about who you are. So you have to be delicate, because I have a secretary and a paralegal, and I've had many assistants, and they tell me everything that
Hmm.
for any
Yeah.
interaction that they have. So assume the same about their help, that those connections are made, and those and that they tell everything that every interaction that they've had with you. So you have to deal with it with kid gloves and announce, this is the client, I am the attorney, and they usually apologize and feel bad. I've had bailiffs tell me I can't come into chambers because only attorneys are allowed in the judge's chambers. I've had bailiffs and secretaries tell me I can't sit on the inside. It's called they call it passing the bar, and that place where the audience sits, where counsel sits, is there's a bar or a gate you enter into. And I've had bailiffs and secretaries tell me don't come in there. But sometimes they're on the record, the judge is speaking. You cannot always say and state your rights right then, because it'll bring a fuss. And so when they call the case, you show up, you go through the bar and announce your name and your client's name, and they're embarrassed because they've disrespected you and assumed that you're not the attorney, although you have the briefcase and the suit and everything that should indicate you're the attorney. Don't. So sometimes you just have to take it. Sometimes you just have to take it because you do not want your client to pay for what you may be able, and in all rights, be able to say, you're very disrespectful, I'm the attorney, because it is going to reflect on your client and how his case comes out. So you have to be very careful in how you do it. I've had in Franklin County, I've had the administrator or the manager of a clerk come and ask me personally if I would like to report their conduct, because it was overheard by other attorneys that this person disrespected me. And so when it happens, God will figure out how to even that playing field when it needs to be. And so you just play with it with kid gloves. If somebody's completely disrespectful or completely wrong and you need to move, then you can announce, I'm the attorney, please don't speak to my client. And that's another way to stop it, because they'll sometimes speak to the client. Say, who are you representing?
They don't think they have an attorney. Oh, because they think the client is the attorney.
Yes.
And you're the client. So they'll tell the client, who are you representing in those? So you can step in and say, well, I'm the attorney, please don't speak to my client.
Yeah, because that's when the prosecutor does it as well. So the prosecutor will sometimes come over to my client and start trying to make arrangements. And I'm like, excuse me, please don't speak to my client. That's Mr., who I'm representing. And, oh, I'm sorry, but it's an assumption. That's very common, very common. It is not like this happened 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Many times I've had that to deal with. And that is a part of being a Black female attorney.
And we're only 3%.
Exactly.
Or is it the 2? We're very low.
We're a small percentage. And so the assumption is that you cannot be the attorney. So you have to figure out how to deal with that and not prejudice your client in the meantime.
Have you ever had conversations with those people who confuse you as the client afterwards? So after court or anything like that, have you ever had conversations with people afterwards?
Yes, they want to have the conversation. They are very eager to have the conversation after court. That's when you get the apologies and I'm sorry, I didn't know. And there's really no excuse. There's really no excuse, because a lot of times the client isn't in a suit. I don't understand how I can be as dressed up as I can get, but I'm still not the attorney. And so you let them make the apology. Try to not take it personally, because that is just the state of the world. That's where we're at, and that comes with the game. It just comes with it, that you're going to have to feel that and move on, and not really take it personal that it's you. It's just the state of where we're at.
When did you first realize that you were a Black attorney?
Probably when I was doing on-campus interviews, and I won't say the name of the company, but it was a very big company, and I wanted the job really bad. And I was ranked like number 2 in the class. So I had a high ranking, and I interviewed.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I interviewed with some very prestigious firms. And I'll never forget when I walked up to the interview room, the attorney that was interviewing was standing outside of the interview room. And I walked up and I said, is this the interview for so and so company? Is this the right room? Because they had a row of rooms that all of them interviewing at the same time. And he said, yes. And he said, I'm waiting for Lori Brown. And I said, I am Lori Brown. And he kind of he was so shocked and visibly shocked that it just was kind of awkward. And so we sat down in the room, and the first thing he said was, I have some Black friends. And I thought,
I have some Black friends.
Yes, that was the very first thing that he said. And I knew I would not get the job at that point. And he was flustered the entire interview because he just could not believe that I was Lori Brown. And he asked me a few questions about my grades and kind of wondered, how did you do that? How did you do that? And I guess my name did not give away that I could possibly be an American. And so that was when I realized this is going to be difficult, because no matter how well I've done in law school, and my grades went before me, when you submit the resume, go in front of you and they lead the way and they open the door. But once you walk through it, now they're looking at you and saying, oh, we weren't betting on that. And so that's when I realized I was a Black attorney, and I was in law school still.
Oh, wow. So how did you navigate that afterwards? Like, how did you process that experience?
I spent a lot of time working on how to interview because I knew I couldn't do anything about being Black.
I mean, some people try,
Yeah,
I could, or whatever else.
Right. No, I wasn't willing to do any of that, and there was nothing I could do about that. I'm very proud to be Black, and so that wasn't an option. So the only option was to just be better in person, as well as in person as I was on paper. And so I read many books on how to interview, and I created almost a commercial so that when I interviewed, I was ready for any question, and I could interview at top level, so that if they didn't like me, it wouldn't be for any other reason other than they just don't want me because I'm Black, female. Maybe they want a white male or a white female. But I created a great commercial, and I had places where I laughed in it and told stories about my family. I learned all the interview techniques and how, in an interview, you're supposed to talk about your strengths and what you can do for the company, not just your strengths, but what your strengths are that the company can utilize. So I learned all of those techniques, and every interview almost that I went on after that, I received an offer.
Oh, wow. So you took that experience of them being surprised that you were Black, and you're like, I want to perfect how I show up. So
Exactly.
there is no other way than you deciding that it's because I am Black that you don't want me.
Yes, and I know most African Americans teach and have been taught that you have to be twice as good as anybody to make it. And so I did that with my grades, and I thought, okay, in this interviewing process, I'm going to have to do it in that respect as well. You can't just sit on your grades. You have to come and show up and be on fire and alive, and have researched the company, know all about them, and just be the person that you believe they're looking for. And that's the best you can do. If they're racist or sexist, there's nothing else you can do.
So you internalized it. Is that how you wished it would have happened? Or how do you wish you could have navigated that? Because often, we do, that is the same. We're taught you have to work twice as hard to be considered half as good. And then for me to hear that you're the top, you were the second in your class, Black woman what else did they need? Like, so I find it interesting that you were like, okay, well, let me be better. And it's like, no, actually they should have showed up better.
Right.
They should have worked on themselves in terms of their biases and stereotypes, because if they liked you on paper, unless you had a horrible personality, they should have liked you in person. And my assumption is that that was not the case. And so you decided to be able to play the game, or increase the skill of interviewing, and that really wasn't even the problem necessarily.
It wasn't, because I was probably a decent interview at that time. I mean, I was very excited and humbled, and always did research on the company. That's interviewing 101, know the company, and know what strengths you can bring. And my strengths were proven. I'm a hard worker. I'm intelligent. I am diligent and motivated, respectful, humble, even outside of my grades, because that's just who I was already. And I already had, when I was in law school, I worked a full-time job as a paralegal. So I already knew what law firms kind of were looking for. And so I had a good idea, but I knew that I had to be better. So what I wished would have happened is that somehow I could have interviewed without them seeing me. And speaking of that, I got a job one time without them seeing me, because I interviewed so well. And when I showed up, they still didn't hire me.
Oh, wow.
Once
So
they
they
realized,
offered you the position and they realized that you were Black, and they were like, oh, just playing. That wasn't actually for you.
they actually hired me, and we did 2 phone interviews, because whoever the corporate office was in another state. I had 2 phone interviews, and they said, based on your grades, you're interviewing, we want you. And so it's another big corporate company that I wanted to work for. And at this time, I graduated from law school and went back to law school to work on an LLM in business and tax.
Okay.
And at that time, I had a 3.9 in the business and tax program. And so they were like, we want you, we want you, we want you. You did well in law school, you're doing well in this program. You don't even have to finish the program. We want you, if
Oh,
whether you.
wow.
So we interviewed one of the gentlemen, had a Navy background. We related in that respect, and so it went well. Well, we had a second interview, and then they told me to come into the office. They had an office downtown Columbus, Ohio, in the Huntington building, and they were going to tell me I had to fill out the paperwork and show me my office, where my office would be, and go to lunch with my direct supervisor.
Oh,
I
wow.
arrived, they had my name in lights, on a big marquee, welcome Lori Brown. I got some of the paraphernalia they give you with the company name and that kind of stuff. And I was excited. We went to lunch, and they told me that I would get my start date in a week. And I called back in the week for the start date, and they said that that person was not available. They would call me later, call back again. They said that person was still not available, kept calling, and this went on for months.
Oh, wow.
And I realized they didn't know I was Black. They thought I was white and had changed their minds, because the person who I met with had no decision-making power. This person was
Oh.
only another employee, was an Asian lady, and we just went to lunch. She showed me my office, and she said, they'll contact you. But evidently somebody must have said, oh, she's no. And
Interesting. And there was no lawsuit that pursued after that?
I could have tried to pursue some cause of action, but I refused to, because at that point, I'm like, I need to work. I cannot let this distract. And I knew what it was. I knew it was only so, you just have to move on. Every fight that you're invited to, you do not have to attend. And I didn't to attend that one, even though I had all the ability to do so, even on my own. But no, I did not sue. But it was a big company. It was interesting. I'll tell you who it was.
Because I am interested to know. Wow, that is very interesting.
Mhm.
So, what does a typical day look like for you as an attorney?
Wow. What year would you like that to start from? In the beginning, I had also had a criminal practice pretty heavily there in Columbus, Ohio, and that day is a hectic day. That starts out pretty early with you running down to the courthouse and making an appearance, arguing a bond motion, arguing a hearing, going to see a client in jail, interviewing a new prospective client for a case which may or may not be in jail. Just a lot of movement in the criminal law practice. So it just depends on what area you're in as to how my day was structured. So when I did a lot of criminal law, a lot of time spent at the courthouse, mostly um, making appearances, just a small amount of time really spent at the jail. I never spent that much time at the jail. I would try to limit it to an hour or two a week at the jail
Okay.
house, which is still a lot of time, and a lot of attorneys do not go make jail visits, but I did make jail visits. A lot, not that much time, but some time at the jail, and a lot of home visits with. I generally meet with the family who aren't in jail at their home a lot of times, especially once I didn't have a office space. So at one point I had office space and people would come to my office. I shared office with other attorneys. But once I didn't have, I would even go to people's homes and meet with them and discuss the case and really give my thoughts on that, which I do charge for consultation because my consultations are at least an hour and I give
Okay.
feedback. I don't just give a summary and then quote a fee. I kind of give an in-depth consultation. So that took a lot of time. When I had a probate practice, more time on paperwork, more time really doing a lot of paperwork and a lot of things that don't even seem like what an attorney would do. A lot of times at the bank, a lot of times in government offices, doing government paperwork, trying to get benefits or figure out, different circumstances that a client was going through, home visits, sometimes seeing how their well-being, nursing
Mhm.
home visits, dealing with nursing home administrators and determining whether the client is thriving. So it just depends on what area I was practicing in, is how much time was spent doing what. A lot of times I had a paralegal or an assistant that did a lot of research. So I would only pretty much draft the actual motion or complaint. I didn't do a lot of research my own self after I
Okay.
started practicing. I don't know why, but I really stopped desiring to do a lot of research, probably from all that extra LLM research I was doing. It like burned me out. So I was like, somebody else is going to do that part. They'll bring it to me after it's done. And then I might do a little research if I didn't think that they
It's
gave me everything.
thorough enough.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting. It's cool to hear you talk about your different practice areas.
Yes. I got to give you the fun stuff, though. I didn't tell you about
Okay.
my entertainment
Yeah,
practice.
tell us about the entertainment law.
Yes, this is where I'm at now. So those were what I was doing early on, the criminal and the probate. Now that I'm into the entertainment law, this is what my day looks like. It looks like more like meeting with the client, who is generally an entertainer or some professional athlete or in some sort of entertainment practice, and meeting with them a lot of time, a lot of counseling of them of legal things and non-legal things, personal things, all kinds of subjects that they're dealing with. And so still a lot of counseling in that. And then a lot of times attending events with them. A lot of them want me to come to their events that they are performing at. So now I get to travel quite a bit, hanging out with different entertainers. I met Jay-Z a few months ago, hanging out with one of my clients that is signed to Rock Nation. So I
Awesome.
got to go to the 4040 Club grand opening, and that was exciting and fun. And actually, met Jay-Z and a lot of other great entertainers, Meek Mills, and some other folks that were at that event. So that was one of the great things. I went on tour with Snoop Dogg with another client of mine. And a lot of times they want you on site to answer questions, to make them feel comfortable, and almost management is it starts sliding into management of them and kind of advising them and counseling them in their daily affairs and how to navigate different situations that they run into. So the entertainment side has been a lot more fun and a lot more interesting, a lot more paperwork in some respects. I get a lot of paperwork from the record label that I have to review and draft and send in and go through. So there's a lot of back end late night paperwork that you do, but then you get to jump up and get on a plane and be somewhere fabulous in a fabulous gown and meeting fun. So yeah, it can be that has been my more recent practice. A lot of more entertainers, and I'm thankful because in Columbus, not as much entertainment going on, but I have quite a bit of entertainment clients already, and the ones that I'm meeting now are new. So that practice came out of Columbus, Ohio, where you would never think that that would stream out of. Yes.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. I'm always interested in entertainment law. I wouldn't say I have a creative side, but I am a creative, but I also am always working with creatives. And
Yes.
so learning more about the entertainment law always intrigues me and how to navigate that space. So that's exciting and fun to hear. That's the type of life I want to live. Just let's
Yes.
go hop on a plane to your event
That's right.
and I get to dress up and meet other celebrities. It's my cup of tea. Okay.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. Yes, let's have some fun mixed with some knowledge. And it's interesting because even though you would think the attorney doesn't have to go with you, as they travel and as I'm involved in things, I can see things and opportunities that they should take advantage of while they're doing it. And so it is a big bonus for me to have the ability to travel and help them make decisions before it turns into a problem, and also involve themselves in things that they may otherwise miss. And if they had a business manager, some of those business managers may have some legal knowledge to have an idea, but it's really fun for me to be on hand and be able to do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, I'm sorry. What'd you say?
I was saying, especially being an entertainer myself, I know what they're feeling like. I know that they don't understand the legal part. I know what it feels like to play that part, to want to be in the industry, but not quite understand the legal side of it.
That's awesome. I think that's a wonderful perspective that you can bring that experience to the work that you do. I think often when we think about lawyers, we don't necessarily understand or think about the preventative side. We also often just hear about lawyers being on the, oh, I have a problem, let me fix it. But lawyer roles often have to do with some of the beforehand practicing and preparing and preventing some issues from actually happening.
Yes, it should. It should definitely be forward looking. I think that is key to helping, to really being of value to your client, is being very forward looking and looking down the road at what they need to start focusing on, what they need to make sure they don't allow to come into play, as well as taking advantage of great opportunities that they may miss out on because they're just looking at now. But you really have to look forward, because they have to figure out a way to retire. They have to figure out a way, when the fame is dying down, how to make a living. So you need to, if you can, get in there and look at opportunities being presented and how they can take advantage of it.
Yes, that's awesome. What is the best advice that you've ever gotten?
That I've ever received. I hate to sound typical, but it is from my mother, and I'll never forget it. Told me, the time is going to pass. It's up to you with what you do with it. I can use that advice and make good decisions about whether it's something I want to be involved in. Even taking this California bar exam. Oh, you got to study for, a couple months, and But in 2 more years from now, I'll still want to be practicing outside of Ohio. So it was either buckle down and do it then, but it will still be waiting on me, if that's
Yeah.
desire, if you want more, if you want to expand, the thing that it takes to do it is it's always the time is going to pass whether you spend it doing nothing or being distracted or doing the same thing versus taking that time to get where you want to get. So I think that's the best advice that I got. And it's the best advice that I give anybody that is pursuing something that doesn't have a quick turnaround. You don't get, you probably, I don't know how long it takes to get a real estate license or other licenses, but a lot of people look at the attorney license and just think that's just too much time. But the time is going to pass.
The time will pass anyway. I totally agree. I say that when people are like, but it takes 7 years to do that. I'm like, the time is going to pass anyway. You
That's
can do
right.
it pursuing something that you dreamed about, or you can do it thinking about doing something that you dreamed about. Either way, the time is going to pass. Do you want it or do you not?
Yes, yes,
So,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
I totally understand and totally agree. That's awesome. What do you see for the future for people who are driven while Black?
I see that if you're driven, you will have everything that you want. I think the future is bright for Black people, for African Americans. I think the future is extremely bright. If I was 20 years younger and looking at the options they have today, I would have been a doctor and a lawyer. I wouldn't have just been one. I would
Yeah.
have honestly done both practices because you can be
Medical or PhD?
medical. I would have went
Okay.
to medical school. I considered it the day I graduated from law school. I considered literally signing up for medical school. But at that time, I had the boys, and I needed to start making some money for them. But because so much stuff is online now, so many ways you can organize your life now that wasn't even possible then. Um, I would have done both, and they can do both. They can be anything. When I was in law school, we didn't even get a LexisNexis password until our second year. I think
Mhm.
they're getting them now in their first year. I
Yeah,
think
LexisNexis is the research platform for legal studies. But when I was in law school, we got it our first year.
yeah, you didn't get it until your second year then because you had to go in the books. You had to go in the books for quite a while, and they didn't let you come near any online research. That was not even thought of. And now nobody's really thinking of real books. They're thinking online, of course. And
Yeah,
that's
online database.
and my point is everything back in those days was based on physically being present and doing something. Now everything's based on being online and seeing it from that perspective, either classes online. I think they took the bar or something online
Yeah, I
here
took the bar remote. So yeah, online.
remote. That is mind blowing to me. Like when I first signed up to do California's bar and they said that you could take it on the laptop, I signed up for writing because I was like, that's weird. I don't even think I could do it on a laptop because I've got this method that I used in law school and it was handwritten.
Yeah.
And I probably maybe showed it to you. Did I teach it to you?
Yes, that's how I met you. Yeah, you were doing
Yeah,
a course at
yeah,
the law school for
exactly.
Texas.
So I couldn't figure out how I could do that on a laptop. So I was like, no, I'm gonna handwrite it. And then I thought about it, like how much faster I could type than I could write. So I was like, I could give them way more information. So I switched it to laptop. But it just reminds me constantly of all the options, all the availability that's out now. There's no excuse not to be whatever you want to be, even as music. When I wanted to sing, I could not figure out how to get myself heard by anybody outside of the local bar I was singing in or the local club I was singing at.
Mhm.
Unless we traveled in a car and got booked somewhere out of state, that was the only people hearing you. And
Mhm.
you might have yourself on a cassette tape, but you had to hand that cassette to somebody. It had to get handed to someone. the ability of YouTube, the ability of the internet, the ability of Instagram and Facebook is mind numbing. That
Yeah.
anybody anywhere can be heard or seen doing anything. It has really even playing fields, and even not even needing a record label. You could make all the money you need to make and be as famous as you want to make without even a label deal, as we've
Yeah,
seen.
it's amazing. Yeah, how technology has opened many doors and forged many connections that we didn't have the opportunity to do before without that technology. It's actually wonderful.
It is. It is.
Yeah,
And that's why
definitely mind blowing.
it's bright for motivated Black Americans, because you can do anything you set your mind to. There's every open door for that. And you will be received by who you're supposed to be received. But the barriers have been torn down to access, because they're there. It's there. So I'm excited to see what my kids and my grandkids will do with all of this opportunity. And just the doors that African Americans before us have kicked down to even have those opportunities. Those doors are open, and then many more are open. So it's going to be great. It's going to be good. It's going to be a big gap, though, between those who decide to be motivated and do more and those who don't. There'll be a bigger gap, because if you're not motivated, those jobs and opportunities that come without motivation are going to be fewer and far between, and the income will reflect that.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I would say I agree. Because if you don't take advantage of, some of these opportunities, because there are so many opportunities, it can end up creating a great divide between those who do and those who do not. That's
Yes,
a very interesting thought.
yes.
Okay, so fun question, especially because you're a musician, so I'm interested in hearing this. So,
Mm.
what is the title of your album cover that explains your Driven While Black story?
Wow, the title of my album cover would be All I Need.
All I Need. Okay, give us a little more context. Is it R&B? Is it country? What type of music is it?
So it would be a love song.
Okay.
It would be a love song, and it would be I've already written it, actually. It's All I Need. And it fought between I Surrender. There's another song I wrote called I Surrender. So those two would be fighting, but I think the cover would be All I Need, and the I Surrender would be a gospel song included in the R&B. And
Okay.
yes, yes,
That's
and
exciting.
yeah, it is exciting, because if you figure out what you really need, if you really get that figured out and then surrender to it,
Yeah.
you'll make it.
Oh, yeah, you'll make it.
Yes,
That's it. That's gold. That's where the money is. That's
yes.
awesome. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to leave with people?
The only thing I would add is that put God first in all things. In all things, put Him first, and it's your star is greater than you could imagine. It's greater than you can think. You just have to take a step, even when you don't know where you're going, even when it feels like you're moving the wrong direction. Like this can't be it. You still have to take a step. You have to fail sometimes, so you know where you don't want to go. But you
Yeah.
move. You cannot be stuck or stagnant, not moving. You have to move forward. So that is my advice. Whatever it is, just go for it. Go for it with all your heart, mind, and soul. But first, pray, and ask God for direction, and He'll lead you. And then move, even when, like I said, even when you don't know where you're moving to. I had no idea when I was coming to California what He had for me. I literally felt blind. I knew I was taking the bar exam, but I still didn't know why exactly I needed to practice California. I just knew I had this desire.
Mm-hmm.
And it made no sense because I had a really good practice in Ohio. I know all the judges, I know all the people. I have a nice stream of income. I have a home there. My family is there. It just looked real simple and easy. And then but it didn't feel comfortable anymore. It was uncomfortable in my spirit. And it was like,
Mm-hmm.
need to move forward. Okay. And so I listened and I set myself up to take the bar exam. And then after the bar exam, I was kind of like, okay, now what am I doing? We don't get the results until May. So it was like, well, I might as well go home and wait on the results. But something just kept saying, no, it's not time to go home yet. You have something to do. And I'm like, okay, what? But I just had to take a step. I just had to keep taking a step, even though I didn't know and I still don't know what's in front of me. I'm still waiting for a lot of the answers, but it's that faith walk. It's that taking a step, not knowing. That's what going to law school is. That's that's $100 and some $1,000 faith walk because it's expensive,
It
time
is.
consuming, and a lot of work. And you don't even know what you're going to do with this degree. Really, most of us don't, especially African Americans. We don't generally have a law firm that somebody's built that we're going to walk into. We are generally first generation and figuring it out as we go. Most of us don't even know a lawyer until we become a lawyer.
Yeah.
And so I say that to say, just whatever it is you're going to do, if it's not law, it doesn't have to be, whatever it is, just take a step in faith after you've prayed and asked God, and whatever answer he's given you, walk on it. Just walk on faith and go for it and let him be God. Because all we can do is all we can do. We can't do any more anyway.
This is so true. Yes, dropping gems. Well, thank you so much. How can folks stay in touch with your drive?
You can reach me on Instagram at Legally Beautiful Law, or Facebook under my name, Lori Brown, or you can catch me at LoriBrownLaw@gmail.com. Currently, I got somebody working on a personal website. They haven't finished it yet, so I don't have a personal email yet, but it's coming. But you can always reach me on Instagram at that Instagram name and watch to see what new and different celebrities that I will be hanging out with and representing.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much. It's good to see all that you are being and becoming.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. You as well. I keep following you on Instagram. I'm like, go ahead, come on here. That's awesome. That's exciting. That's really exciting and encouraging to hear, especially you taking the California bar, because no one wants to take the bar again. I don't know. Maybe people do, but I don't.
No, most people don't.
Yeah. So that's amazing that you're, going for more, continuing to stay driven and pursuing, those goals and dreams and, whatever attracts you, and literally going across the country to do that, taking the risk, having that faith walk. It's beautiful. I know for sure God will bless you. So keep going.
Thank you so much.